In any high-stakes negotiation, there's a signal that most people just completely miss. And no, it's not about leverage, it's not about your alternatives, it's not even about the numbers themselves. It's a signal that's hiding right there in plain sight. So in this explainer, we're going to decode that signal, and we're going to reveal a truth that might feel a little counterintuitive. Price is never, ever the real issue.
You know the feeling, right? You're on the 1-yard line. The deal is practically done. And then, poof, it just implodes over a few percentage points. Top talent walks away over a salary dispute. A game-changing investment gets put on ice. And the official story? The cause of death is always price. But you know what? That's a total misdiagnosis. The real question we should be asking is, what is a price objection actually a symptom of?
And right here, this is the fundamental shift in mindset. Amateurs see a price objection as a brick wall. It's an obstacle to get around. But elite operators? They see it as a map. It's not a barrier. No, it's a signal that points you directly to the real issue at hand.
Okay, so let's decode this signal. The central idea is this. Price is just a symbol. And once you really get what it symbolizes, you'll finally understand why all those logical arguments you have about money almost never work.
This is the signal, plain and simple. When someone pushes back on price, it's never really about the money. It's a coded message. What they're really talking about is fear. Fear of making the wrong call. Fear of looking stupid later. Fear of some unknown future going sideways. The number, that's just the container they've put all that fear into.
All right, so if the signal is fear, then what's the underlying pattern? Well, this psychological force, it isn't random. It shows up again and again across every single high-stakes domain. And it's all driven by a really powerful cognitive bias.
And here it is. This is the psychological engine running the whole show, Prospect Theory. Daniel Kahneman's Nobel Prize-winning work proved that, for humans, the pain of losing something is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining that exact same thing. In any negotiation, this isn't just some minor bias. It is the dominant gravitational force pulling on every decision.
And you see this pattern everywhere. Think about it. An investor isn't just logically weighing risk versus reward. They are often paralyzed by the fear of a total loss. A candidate isn't just haggling over salary. They're trying to dodge the career-ending regret of taking the wrong job. The buyer, they're haunted by post-purchase regret. The common thread here is this deep, deep-seated aversion to making a mistake.
And this is really the key. Let this sink in. You are not fighting a budget. You're not fighting a spreadsheet. You are fighting their primal fear of making a mistake. The price is just the battlefield they've chosen to have that fight on.
Okay, so once you see this pattern, you can stop playing their game and start playing the real game. The objective suddenly changes. It's not to lower the cost, it's to increase their certainty. The best operators get this. They don't sell products or services, they sell confidence. So let's look at how that game is actually played.
You really only have two paths you can go down. The first is selling on price, and that's a race to the bottom, every single time. It just commoditizes everything you offer. But selling on certainty, that's a completely different path. It builds a bridge of trust, and it elevates the whole conversation from a simple transaction to a real partnership.
Now here's the paradox that most people miss. Giving concessions, it actually breeds doubt. I mean, every time you lower your price, you plant a little seed in their mind that says, what's wrong with this thing? Why is it suddenly cheaper? But when you build certainty, you remove the need for a discount in the first place. So how do you actually do it? How do you build certainty? Well, there are 3 key moves. First, you have to de-risk the outcome. Offer guarantees, social proof, case studies, whatever it takes to make the future feel safe and predictable. Second, you anchor to a higher value. Don't let them see the price in a vacuum. Frame it against the enormous cost of doing nothing. And third, reframe the entire narrative. This isn't a transaction. It's a strategic investment in their future success.
So what's the real cost of missing this signal? It's not just about one lost deal. It's that you end up arguing with ghosts. You're there fighting a logical battle over numbers on a page, while the real war, the one being fought against their fear, is already over, and you lost.
You know, the post-mortem on a failed deal almost always blames price. That's the official story. But if you look at the data, it tells you something completely different. The real deal killer, the silent assassin, is perceived risk. Price just takes the blame. It's the fall guy.
And this is the real tragedy of it all. Most deals don't die because of a lack of skill. They die because of a lack of perception. If you're not playing the game of certainty, you're not even on the right board. You're sitting there playing checkers while your counterpart is playing 3-dimensional chess.
So this is where the real edge is found. It's not in some playbook of clever tactics. It's in a fundamentally different way of seeing the situation. Elite negotiators don't necessarily have better moves, they just have a much, much better map of the territory. So let's take a look at how they see the board.
This table says it all. The amateur hears, "We can't afford it," and their first instinct is to reach for a discount. But the elite operator, they hear something different. They hear, "We aren't sure it's worth it," and they reach for a guarantee. See the difference? One treats the symptom, the other cures the disease.
The master skill here is framing. As the great Rory Sutherland says, what something is worth depends entirely on the story you tell around it. The number itself doesn't matter nearly as much as the narrative. So the elite negotiator stops being a salesperson and becomes a storyteller. They frame the price not as a cost to be minimized, but as the price of admission to a much better future.
Ultimately, this is the crucial distinction. They're not salespeople, they're diagnosticians. They refuse to treat the symptom, which is price. Instead, they get to work diagnosing the underlying disease, which is always uncertainty. And the prescription? It's always a powerful dose of certainty.
Okay, let's bring this home. Let's apply this lens to your world. I'm going to leave you with 3 questions to help you start decoding the signals in your very next negotiation.
I want you to think about the last deal you had that stalled on price. Get it in your head. Now ask yourself, what was the ghost in the machine? What were they really afraid of? Political blowback? A nightmarish implementation? Were they afraid your solution would create more problems than it solved? You have to name the fear.
Now I want you to completely reframe the problem. Stop asking yourself, how low can I go on the price, and start asking a much more powerful question. What would it take to make them feel completely safe with this decision? Is it a money-back guarantee? A phased pilot program? A direct line to your happiest customer? The answer to that question is your real path to yes.
And finally, ask yourself this. What story is your price telling right now? Is it telling a story of cheap and easy, or is it telling a story of premium, reliable, and worth it? Because make no mistake, every number you put on that table is a chapter in a story. You need to make sure you're the one writing it.